Hello everyone, welcome to Big Friendly Grub. I hope you are safe and well. Now at the time of recording, it is currently the month of June, and June means in many places around the world it is Pride Month, and Pride Month is a time for LGBTQ people to celebrate who they are openly, because in many places around the world they still face discrimination, hate, misunderstanding, persecution, and in some places arrest and execution as well. Sometimes in some countries around the world they are put to death just for being who they are. And I'm going to be talking a lot about this in this video. So if this bothers you at any point, there's the dislike button, off your trot. But before you hit that dislike button, just consider why this bothers you so much. That's all I ask. Now, I live in Brighton in the UK, and usually we have a big Pride parade here. It's a big thing, and usually there is a massive parade, and it's a huge celebration over a weekend. Now, that can't happen this year because of the whole coronavirus pandemic, but I still want to celebrate Pride in my own way. I'm wearing my Eurogamer Pride t-shirt, and today I wanted to make a rainbow cake to highlight gay pride and just basically try and celebrate it in my own way. But because I didn't want to just be another guy talking about pride and not really doing anything about it and just going, look, I made a rainbow cake, yay me, I wanted to also donate to 3 separate UK charities. So I'm going to be donating to Mermaid's Gender, which is for trans people and people who are questioning about their gender, giving them the support that they need to help them through that, helping them with transition, helping them to find out what they need to know about themselves and how they can get the support that they need. I'm also going to be donating to All Sorts, which is a charity here in Brighton, which gives support to LGBTQ teens because they need support helping figure out their identity and figuring out how they can get the support that they need to basically find their place in the world that doesn't always accept them. I'm also going to be donating to the Marsha P. Johnson Institute. Marsha P. Johnson was a black trans woman, and she was very much a figurehead in the Stonewall riots back in the 1960s, which is pretty much where Pride began. The reason I'm donating to the Marsha P. Johnson Institute is because the Black Lives Matter movement is going on at the moment. I'm very much behind that. And also there's also been a lot of hate crimes recently towards black trans people as well. And black trans lives matter just as much as any life out there as well. So that's the reason I'm donating to the Marsha P. Johnson Institute as well. So I hope that helps support the Pride movement, seeing as we can't have the Pride Parade here in Brighton this year, unfortunately, but hopefully it will be back bigger and better next year. Now back to the rainbow cake. A rainbow cake, if you haven't seen one before, is a very big cake. It's got 6 layers to it. It's got red, green, yellow, blue, orange and purple layers running through it. I was trying to remember there, which are basically all the colours of a rainbow, and they also make up the colours of the Pride flag as well. Now I made one of these cakes a couple of years ago, and it was a little bit of a challenge because I made it on the hottest day of the year. I was making it for my workplace. We were doing a cake sale at work, and basically all the donations from that went to LGBTQ charities. It was a bit of a challenge when I made it a couple of years ago. It's a bit cooler today this year, so I'm hoping it'll go a little bit better. I'm going to try and run through this. I'm going to hopefully show you how to make a rainbow cake. Hopefully it will come out well, and hopefully I won't make a complete hash of it. But fingers crossed this goes really well. And I've done enough talking, let's get started with making our rainbow cake. Now because our rainbow cake is 6 layers of cake, that means it's going to be a lot of ingredients, it's going to be a lot of equipment involved, and also a lot of time. But to make things easier, I'm going to start off by using 6 bowls to separate out my colours. I've got some lovely rainbow bowls here. I say rainbow, it's got 2 blue bowls in it, but no orange one, which is really annoying. Why wouldn't you put an orange one in there instead? But never mind, I've still got some lovely colourful bowls which I'm going to use to separate out my colours to start off with. And the best way to do that, start off with my milk, which goes into our batter, and I've got 9 tablespoons here, and I'm basically going to flavour this up with some vanilla extract right now. So I'm going to add in 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I'm nearly running out of this stuff. 1.5, using my Lavoons from the gadget testing video I did a little while ago. Then into these bowls I need to put 1.5 tablespoons of my milk. Now with my milk in my bowls, I need to get my colourings into here, and I have some food grade colourings here. I've got red, orange, yellow, green, blue and purple, and I believe these are liquid ones, but if you can get hold of the colour paste, they're even better because they are just a better consistency, but these are what I could get at this time, so these are what I'm going to use. Now because I haven't used these ones before, I don't know quite how many drops of these to use, so I'm going to just wing it. I'm going to pop in colour until I'm happy with how bright it is. Popped a few drops of red in there, let's see how that comes out. Oh, that looks pretty red. Might just pop a couple more drops in. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I mean, that's almost the same colour as the bowl, so I'm going to stick with that and do the rest for all the other colours. Now I've put all my colours into my bowls, they're looking lovely and bright and strong. I did put the yellow into the blue bowl, which is a bit upsetting instead of putting it into the yellow bowl, but considering this would have had orange in it anyway, it doesn't matter too much. Now I'm going to put these to one side. Our cake batter will be separated out into these a little bit later, but first we need to make our cake batter. Now I've got my trusty stand mixer here, which I'm going to be using for my cake batter. It is getting on in years now, so I hope it's up to the task of making all this cake batter, a bit like me really, getting on in years. Now we're going to need a heck of a lot of cake batter for our 6 layers of cake, so we're going to start off with 750 grams of butter. That's 3 full blocks here in the UK. It's lovely, soft, room temperature butter. I'm also going to need the same amount of caster sugar. There's 750 grams of caster sugar here. And I'm going to pop on my blade and mix this for a good 6 or 7 minutes until it's really lovely, pale and fluffy. Right, that's had a good 6 or 7 minutes worth of mixing, probably about 7 minutes, and you can see how lovely, light and pale and fluffy that is, and that's really going to allow that colour to shine through there because we've got rid of that really yellow colour of the butter. Now we're going to need to add in our eggs to this. I am going to add in 9 eggs, which I've already beaten up. This is going to allow me to trickle them in a little bit at a time, because trying to put in 9 eggs one at a time is going to be a bit laborious. So I'm just going to set this off again on a low speed, and then I'm just going to drizzle in some of the eggs a bit at a time. If it looks like it's going to curdle, then you can pop in some of our flour that we're going to be using. Right, that's all my eggs combined in. It's looking lovely and smooth, but we're not done yet because we now need 750 grams of self-raising flour in here. It's the same amount of flour as we had of butter and caster sugar, so it's all even quantity, so it's pretty easy to remember. I just hope my stand mixer is up for the task. It's getting pretty full, so I hope I manage to get all the flour in and it doesn't go everywhere. So I'm going to do it in 2 halves basically. I'm going to get half of the flour in, let that combine in, and then do the other half. So let's pop in half of this flour. I would say that's roughly half. Let's get that back on, and then this is probably going to go everywhere to start with, but I'm going to get this back on a low speed and hopefully let this combine together. Watch this go everywhere. Oh no, it was fine. Oh, a bit of it everywhere. Not as bad as I thought, but let's go. Right, that's 1 half of our flour. Now I'm going to get in the rest and hope that we managed to get the rest of that combined in as well. That is really nearly up to the brim. This is going to be a mess. Right, that looks pretty well combined, but just to be sure, I'm going to get in here with a wooden spoon to try and get down to the bottom and make sure there's no loose bits of flour down the bottom that haven't been mixed in. Right, now I've been through that with a wooden spoon. It should now be nice and evenly mixed. Now I need to get this divided up into 6 equal measures, so the best way for me to do that is to get all this mixture into another bowl so I can weigh that out, see how much there is, and then divide that by 6. So I've got myself another massive bowl. I always knew these bowls would come in useful, and I'm just going to get all this mixture into here. So that's 2.58 kilos of cake batter. So that's 2,580 grams, which I now need to divide by 6. I am going to have to use a calculator for this because my maths is rubbish. That's 430 grams each, a nice round number, that's what we like. So I need to get that divided up into my 6 bowls. So let's pop in our cake batter into our colour. Let's hope these bowls are big enough for 430 grams worth. Yeah, it should be. Right, that's 430 grams into our red. I'm just going to do this for the rest of the colours. Right, with my batter divided up equally amongst the bowls, I can now mix these into the colours. Hopefully they'll be nice and bright. If they're not, I can always add a few more drops of colour. Right, I've got my cake batter divided up into 6 lovely colours. I did have to put some extra drops of colour into some of them just because it wasn't quite bright enough for me. But these are looking really good now. We've got a lovely rainbow of colours. So I now need to get these divided up into 8-inch cake tins. I've only got 4 because I can only fit 4 in my oven. So I'm going to have to bake 4 of these, take the cakes out, and then bake 2 more. But these are going to need to go into the oven for about 20 minutes each in these 8 cake tins, which I've got lined with parchment and greased around the edge with butter. So I'll start off with my first 4 colours of the rainbow. These are loose bottom cake tins, so that will make getting the cake out much easier. Pop this in. And I'm going to spread this out around the tin nice and evenly. Then I'll do the exact same for the rest of the colours. Right, with my first 4 colours evenly divided into tins, I'm going to get these into the oven at 180 degrees for about 20 minutes, and then I can come back and check them, make sure they're cooked, and then I can do the other 2. So we will be back in about 20 minutes. Right, it's been 20 minutes, so our cakes should be good to come out of the oven. Oh, there we go. They are looking nice. We're just going to do the old skewer test just to make sure these have actually cooked through. They certainly look like they have, and they indeed have. That has come out clean, so they are ready. So all I need to do now is let these cool down in the tin for about 5 minutes, and then I can take these out and put the other batter into the 2 tins, bake that, and then let everything cool down completely, and then we can come back and then trim our cakes to size. So you don't need to see me bake the rest of these cakes and take them out of the tin, so we will come back later when this is all magically done. Right, an amount of time later we have 6 lovely cooled cakes, and they are a really good colour, but you will see that there is some discoloration on the tops and around the sides, and this is where trimming our cakes comes into play. So I'm going to have to trim all 6 of these cakes. I'm going to have to trim off the tops and trim some of the outside edges away as well. So we've got a lovely bright colour running all the way through. That is just from the heat of the tin that we've got this browning around the edges. The tops aren't quite so bad, but there is some spots of discoloration, and we want a lovely colour running all the way through. So I'm going to show you how to trim off all these cakes now. We need a couple of bits of certain equipment to do that. Right, to get a nice even level on our cake, I'm going to be using this cake leveler that I reviewed on the gadget testing video that I put up like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, depending on when I put this video up. And hopefully this will help you get a nice even top on our cake. I tested it in the gadget testing video on a pre-made cake. Haven't yet tried it on one that I've made, so hopefully this won't mess up the cake. So I'm going to come in this side of the cake and just try and trim this off. Hopefully it will come through nice and cleanly. Let's see if that comes away. Oh yes, look at that colour. That is so bright. You can see how bright that is versus the actual outside of it. Now you might be thinking, oh, you've broken the edge of that, Matt. Well, don't worry, because we're going to be trimming off this edge as well. And just to do that, we are going to be using just a 7-inch cake drum here, which I'm going to place on top of this. And then I'm going to get myself a nice sharp knife, and I'm just going to cut around the edge of this cake drum so we can get some really nice colour around the edge of our cake, and also make everything the exact same size. Got to be really careful I don't cut myself here, because this is a really nice sharp knife. And we should be able to pull this away from the cake, and voila, we've got one really nice trimmed cake. So that is going to create the first layer of our rainbow cake, and I'm going to do that for the rest of the layers. Look at that. Right, let's move on to the orange. Hopefully this will go just as well. There we go, look at that colour. That is fantastic. And then I'll just trim this one off as well. So let's speed up time just so you don't have to sit through me talking the whole time. Now to create our lovely layers for our buttercream, we need to adhere them together, and for that we're going to use buttercream, and we're going to need a load of buttercream because we're going to need this for each layer, but we're also going to need it to cover the cake. So I'm going to start off with 400 grams of softened unsalted butter. In that goes. Lots and lots of butter used in this recipe today. And we're going to want a really nice light pale buttercream, so we're going to need to beat this for about a good 6 or 7 minutes to make it really nice and pale like we did for our cake. So on with our beater, and off this goes for about 7 minutes. Right, it's been 7 minutes, and you can see how much paler that is and how fluffy it is, and oh, it's just amazing. So I'm going to get this all scraped off the beater and the sides of the bowl, and then we can get our icing sugar in. Right, to go in with our butter, we're going to need a load of icing sugar. We're going to need 900 grams of icing sugar, which I've got in this bowl here, which is pretty much taking up the entire screen. It is a load of icing sugar, but basically you need more than double the amount of butter that you've got. So 900 grams is about right for 400 grams worth of butter. And I'm going to put this in about half at a time because it creates such a mess when you use it. I hate icing sugar just because of how much mess it makes. So I'm going to get half in, mix that in together, put in the rest, and then just a little bit of vanilla extract, and we'll be good to go. I'd say that's roughly half the icing sugar. I'm going to get my beater back on. No, I'm not. Right, down goes the beater now that I've finally got it on, and I'm just going to set this off on a slow speed just to minimise the amount this is going to go everywhere. Now I'm going to combine in the rest of the icing sugar and hopefully get a nice pale icing. Right, that is all well combined, and we've got a lovely pale icing now, so that is all ready for us to start decorating our cake with. So I'm just going to get cleaned up, and then we can move on to the first stage of layering up and decorating our cake. Right, here comes the bit that always makes me nervous. It's the decorating. Sometimes my decorating is great, sometimes it's terrible. What will it be today? Let's find out. I really hope it's going to be great because this is a lot of cake to waste. So what we want to do first is layer up our cakes, and we are going to do that by putting in layers of buttercream, as you would imagine. But first we want to kind of do a little bit of a crumb coat across the top, which is basically just filling in all the gaps in the icing with some of the buttercream, and that's a very thin amount. So I'm going to get some of this on here with a palette knife. I've got myself a rotating cake stand to be able to decorate this easier, and this helps me turn around the cake a lot easier. If you don't have one, it doesn't matter. And we've also got the cake on top of a 8-inch cake drum, kind of like the one that we cut around earlier, but an inch bigger. So with a fairly thin layer of buttercream on there, we then want a thicker layer on there. So I'm going to take a good blob of this and pop that on top of there and just spread this out fairly evenly. And then with a nice layer of icing on there, we can then get on our next layer. You'll notice I'm going in reverse order, starting off with the purple at the bottom, then going on to the blue, and that can go on top of there. And then we repeat this for each layer. So there we go, we've got our layers done on our cake. They look really rough and ready at the moment, but that's because we now need to get a crumb coat on here as well on the outside to steady it up, so we can then get a really nice coating of buttercream on it later. So that's always a fun part, trying to get the crumb coat around here. It's a bit of a rough and ready job because we have got all these rough edges on it, but I'm going to give it the best go that I can. Right, now I'm going to try and get a nice crumb coat onto this cake. My worst fears are coming true, and it is actually getting quite warm today, which is actually making this icing quite hard to distribute around the cake. But I'm going to try my best. That's all I can do, is try my best. I'm not a professional cake maker, as you can tell, but hopefully we can get a nice crumb coating onto this cake and get it nicely decorated, because it's stacking up pretty well. So a thin crumb across the top. Then the fun part is trying to get around these very uneven sides. Right, I've now done my second worst ever job of crumb coating a cake. The first time being the first time I attempted a rainbow cake. It's really warm again, and it's making the buttercream really hard to handle. But I have managed to get a rough crumb coat onto this. It's not as good as I'd like. But we can now do the point where we might be able to redeem this and get this into the fridge to probably chill for about an hour to be able to firm up all this icing, and then we can get a thicker coat of icing around this, which will hopefully help with the presentation. So I'm going to get this into the fridge, let it chill for about an hour, maybe even longer because of how warm it is. Let this set, and hopefully I can get a nice coat of icing around it, and then we'll be done. Hopefully it will still be worth it when we cut into it. Right, it's been about an hour and our crumb coated cake has had some time in the fridge to set up a bit, and it feels a lot better. Hopefully I'll be able to get a nice layer of icing over this. Now, while I was having a bit of a break from this, I suddenly realised that I missed a step when I was making my buttercream, which probably didn't help with me trying to get a crumb coat on this. And I realised I didn't put the milk into my buttercream, which obviously didn't make it as smooth as it could be, which would have made it a little bit harder to crumb coat this. That's my fault, I completely missed that step. So if you do make this and you are doing your icing, then put in 5 tablespoons of milk as well. So I've put a couple of tablespoons into the rest of my icing to help thin it out, and hopefully that will help with me finishing this off. So yeah, that was my bad. I completely forgot that step. I'm amazed I got this far. How do I dress myself in the morning? I don't know. Anyway, let's try and finish off our cake because there's still time to make this look fantastic, or at least adequate. So I'm going to get some of the icing on this and hopefully I can make it look nice. See, that's going on there a lot nicer now. Hopefully we can get a nice smooth top on this. And let's get some of that icing around the side. This is always the hardest part for me, trying to ice the sides. Yeah, that's definitely going on a lot better than it was before. If you are a professional cake maker or decorator out there and you are watching my attempts at this, I'm so sorry. This is one of those things I've yet to perfect. I can make the cakes well enough, but trying to do the decorating is still a very, very tricky art. You know, considering how tricky that crumb coat was earlier, that's not looking too bad at all. It could be more even, but I am happy with that. That is looking quite nice. And I'm just going to finish off decorating this by using some of the cake cuttings we had earlier, and I've just chopped it up into crumbs, and I'm just going to sprinkle some of that over the top, kind of all around the edges here, just for a finishing touch. There we go, we've got a nice ring of rainbow cake on the top of there as well. Now that's ended up looking not bad at all, I think. Definitely one of my better attempts, and definitely better than the last attempt that I did on this. That looks pretty nice, but of course with a rainbow cake, the proof is always with the inside. So I'm just going to leave this to set up for a few minutes, just while I get finishing tidying up, and then I will give it a go by cutting into it and see how it looks. Right, we've got another angle on our rainbow cake, and that's not looking bad at all. To be honest, I'm quite happy with the finish. It's definitely one of my better ones, but the proof, as always, with a rainbow cake, like I was saying, is in the inside, and I want to see how that inside has turned out, because it's not a rainbow cake if it's all merged into one horrible mess, which I'm hoping it hasn't. But the only thing left to do is to get a slice out of this, which I'm going to try and do now. Hopefully I can do this justice. Let's get a decent slice out of this. So, through one bit, and get another bit out of here. Oh, it's going to be a big slice. I probably won't be able to eat all of that, but we need a decent wedge out of this so we can see inside. I'm going to try and get in underneath this. You away. Oh yes, that has come out really well. That's come out really, really well. Look at that. That looks banging. That looks really good. That's come out so well. And here's a closer look at that slice. Look at that. Look at those layers, they're really nice, and got some nice layering of buttercream in there as well. But I'm really happy with how that's turned out, especially as it was proving a bit troublesome halfway through. But that's come out really well. I'm going to bring that in a bit closer so we can see the inside layerings of that. There we go, look at that. Lovely, really lovely. But of course, it wouldn't be a cake without it tasting really nice. And I think this will taste really nice. It's a nice traditional sponge. It's got lovely buttercream on it, but I think it's only fair for me to tuck into this slice as well. I probably won't finish it all. It's quite a big slice, but I will certainly give it a go, because that's only fair on me, because I spent ages making it. So let's give it a go. Yeah, really happy with that. And there we go. One lovely rainbow cake, hopefully worthy of pride. It was a little bit of a battle partly due to it getting hotter and partly due to me forgetting how to make buttercream, but we got there in the end. The journey was a bit hazardous, but we got to the destination in the end, and that's what counts. And yeah, that's turned out really nicely, and I'm sure it's going to taste really nice as well. And I'm going to give it a go right now, because this has been long. It's taken a good few hours due to all the different stages, due to baking all the different parts of the cake, making the buttercream, waiting for it to set, all of that stuff. So I'm going to treat myself to some of this cake right now. Doesn't really matter which bit I go for, but I'm going to go for the bit with the purple end, because purple is my favourite colour. So let's get in over here. Let's get some of the blue as well. And let's take a piece out of this. I'm sure it's going to be really nice. Yeah, that's just really good cake. Really, really good cake. It's lovely, soft vanilla sponge. It's a beautiful vanilla buttercream. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. It's just a really satisfying cake to make. It's a lot of effort, but when you actually cut into it, it's just so satisfying. It's really satisfying. And it's just delicious as well. A wonderful rainbow cake for Pride. Seeing as we can't have Pride out in the streets this year, I'm just bringing a little bit of Pride indoors. And speaking of Pride, I'm going to put this down now. At the beginning of the video, I said I was going to be donating to 3 different charities. I have now done that. That is now up on the screen, just to prove that I'm not talking out my backside. And if you are able to donate to these charities, or any LGBTQ charities as well, then please do, because discrimination against LGBTQ people is still very much a thing. There's still a lot of misunderstanding. There's still a lot of hate out there, and it's just not on. It really isn't. And I urge you, if you can help in any way at all, then please do. Or just take part in Pride, be an ally, and just try and stand up for people who just want to live their lives and just want to love who they want to love, and just, you know, just want to live like the rest of us. It's really not too much to ask. Now that's it from me this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see how this cake is done to absolute perfection, then head over to the YouTube channel of Cupcake Jemma. She is an absolute wizard at cake. She is the queen of cakes, and this is her recipe. I've just been trying it out for purposes of this video. I think it came out pretty well, but she does it just to absolute perfection. It is a work of art. She is the queen of cakes. She runs the shop Crumbs and Doilies on up in London, and she's just amazing. I want to be like her when I grow up. Her cakes are just phenomenal. But this goes to show that you can do these kinds of ambitious cakes at home as well. So hopefully I've really shown you how to do that, albeit with a few hiccups along the way. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it entertaining. But if you want to see me try other things like this, let me know. I enjoy doing them. I enjoy attempting them. They kind of really push my skills to the limit, and hopefully they show there's something that you can attempt at home as well. I hope you really enjoyed the video. If you can donate to any of the charities that I mentioned before, or any other LGBTQ charities, then please do. I'm going to put links into the description down below of the ones that I've donated to. But otherwise, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you celebrate Pride, I hope you are having a good Pride month regardless. I know it's not shaping up to what we wanted it to be, but hopefully you're still able to celebrate Pride your own way, and this is my way of doing that as well. If you enjoyed this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time on Big Friendly Grub. Take care. Bye.